Hi everyone, good to speak to you today. Day 2 of our Pentecost prayer week, and I hope that you had a good first day as we came together to worship, to pray, and to focus on what God is saying to us and to our church. Now, I don't know about you, but I love food, and I know that this church loves food, and that's something I'm really looking forward to us being to be able to do again as we come together and share in that fellowship. Now, fortunately, just last week, we had some people around the house to actually have a barbecue outside, and the Smiths were allowed to come into our home for the first time, well, since lockdown began last year. It was fantastic. The barbecue was pretty good. The company was fab. And what made it even better is that Ben and Catherine discovered there were cold sausages left over for their packed lunches for school the next day. I'm sure you've got people in your friendship circles, your family, who you've probably said to them, you've put enough food on to feed the 5,000. Well, that's exactly what Jesus did. He fed the 5,000. In Matthew 14, verse 13 to 21, we read, "When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, 'This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food.' Jesus replied, 'They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat.' We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, they answered. 'Bring them here to me,' he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up the 12 baskets of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children." This story is a perfect reminder that a little goes a long way. It is the essence, I think, of the saying that we have been using as part of our new church vision for this year and for the years to come, to see God do small things in big ways. I want to be clear that we believe that God can do anything, that he has the power to change lives. He has the strength and power to move mountains. Doing small things in big ways is about what we do in our lives. Our worship, our daily ministry has the potential through God's Holy Spirit to have a big and lasting impact. The fish and the loaves represent a tiny percentage of what was needed to feed that crowd. Even the best chefs maybe couldn't get 5 fish and 2 loaves to stretch that far, no matter how many Michelin stars they had. And the disciples were focused on the earthly factors. There were no shops for miles. They didn't have enough money. They didn't see what could be done. They only focused on what couldn't be possible, or at least they thought couldn't be possible. They didn't display the faith to believe that Jesus could sort this out. Maybe they were tired as well and just wanted to rest. But they didn't see what could be done, even though they had seen what Jesus could do through the miraculous things that he had done through them, in them, and with them. It's easy to feel like this. Our situation just feels too big. No hope of resolving it. We look at it from a human perspective We've all been there. Maybe even more over this past 18 months. But maybe at different points in your life, in our lives, we thought, I just don't know how I'm going to sort this out. But even when we make the smallest of offering, like those fish and those loaves, even when we make the tiniest of commitments, even when we take the smallest step of faith, God is with us and God works through us. We may only do a small thing, but with God it can impact those around us in big ways. Imagine if you committed to pray for someone you wanted to come to faith or be healed. Imagine if you started to give to a charity each month instead of maybe having a Costa coffee or whatever it may be that you enjoy, and gave that money to Christian Aid or Mercy Ships or Tools with a Mission, 3 charities that have been on our minds as a church over these last couple of months. If you gave them money each month and began to follow the progress of those charities. Imagine if you offered to share your testimony with just one person. Imagine if you stepped out in faith today to help someone in your street. Imagine now that as you do these things or any other thing in the name of God, that he will magnify the impact of that act of worship and commitment and faith beyond anything you can understand or believe. We know that that's what God did with those 5 fish and those 2 loaves. There were 12 baskets left over, to the amazement of the disciples and everyone that was there. Just imagine the goodie bags that they took home. I have to say, even that is better than cold sausage sandwiches in a packed lunch. So why can't he do the same with your offering today? I pray that you make that commitment, you make that offering, no matter how small, and know that God will use it mightily and in big ways. May God bless you.